Once again, we're back. This is KG and the Ward Wildcat with the latest and greatest podcast. Thank you once again for listening. I'm KG. The road dog over there is...
I am the Fifth Ward Wildcat. I am in the house today.
Let's get right into it. Let's go do things a little bit different. Typically, we talk about basketball first, but we're not doing that. We're going to talk about the Aggies. Texas A&M Aggies. The A&M Board of Regents will be meeting as the time we do this in a little more than an hour to basically give President Lofton the full power to negotiate and make a final decision regarding A&M's move to the Southeastern Conference. What are your thoughts on? Take it wherever you want to take it.
Let's start with rumors and innuendos. It all boils down to one thing only: who will be the second team to move? Because the SEC basically tabled the way they voted and all. It wasn't so much that they are not inviting A&M. They're just not inviting them at this time because they need another team to come in with them so it could be an even league.
Well, that's part of why they tabled it. They also tabled it because they didn't want to get sued and accused of tampering, basically saying so. They needed A&M to come to them and request to join rather than going to A&M and ask them to join.
And folks, let's just be real. It all boils down to one thing only: weak leadership at the head. That means that person in charge of the Big 12 should have put his foot down over a year ago when everybody was talking about moving and stepping out. That should have been a mandate of not so much monetarily wise, but as an institution and as a conference. The head of the conference, Dan Beebe, should have put his foot down and said, these are the rules as far as teams moving.
But Wildcats, sir, a few months ago, the 10 teams that remained did not reach an agreement for the Fox TV deal, saying they were united. This is how the conference is going to be from here for the immediate future. So what else more could the Commissioner Beebe do?
He needed to go and get a concrete situation to radio and TV contract together. That's what he needed to do, because you can talk about it, you can vote on it, but if you don't have anything in black and white on paper, you end up with what you have now. One school saying we got our own network and we're going with ESPN, while the rest of the conference is headed off to where? Fox? Does that sound logical when you look at the big picture?
Well, so are we blaming the Longhorns for the demise of the Big 12?
The demise of the Big 12 boils down to leadership at the top.
Well, the joke is that the commissioner of the Big 12 is
the lost dog.
The lost dog.
I saw that in there.
The Longhorns, it's AD rather than Dan Beebe. So, we won't get into all those specifics, but that's somebody else to judge and decide.
That's true. But now, what you have is the big question: who's the next team? Who will move with A&M over to the SEC? Who's a suggestion? Because if I'm not mistaken, I think when you check back on the SEC history, wasn't Clemson at one time a part of the SEC? Back years ago?
I don't know about that. Well, it may be, because Clemson, I know they were, but I think Clemson may have been, if they were part of the SEC, but they were a founding member of the ACC. So I don't know if that means they left the SEC to help form the ACC or what have you. But I don't see Clemson joining, because one report that I respect and trust saying the SEC does not want to expand or add a team that's already in the state of a current member. So Clemson is in South Carolina. They're not. South Carolina is a member of SEC, so that knocks them out. Florida State is in Florida, obviously, it knocks them out. Georgia Tech is in the state of Georgia, it knocks them out. So that leaves Virginia Tech, or North Carolina State if you're going to, coach a team from the ACC. But we're getting all off on the 14th team. I want to talk about the 13th team, the Aggies.
I think it is a great move for A&M. One, because they have a large alumni base that is very supportive. And the reason I say that, it's almost like the Cubs. Even when they were not doing well in athletics, they were still showing up on the weekends. They were still buying tickets. I always remember A&M enlarged their football stadium when they were in a down situation as far as athletics. And not many schools can say that. Not many schools can actually do that. That is a typical situation that you see in the SEC on a regular basis.
That's true. Clearly, it's a football move for no other reason. But the ancillary sports, the other athletics sport part of A&M have no factor in this at all. Despite the success of the track and field team or the success of the women's basketball team, defending the national champs, despite all those other sports success. It's a football move. I do not believe I know the rest of the majority of the coaches are not in favor of it because of what it involves. It involves tougher competition. It involves, depending on what the sport is, it involves more travel, longer distance of travel during the week for the non-football sports. Which means you're taking away study time for your quote-unquote student athletes, which is supposed to be one of the reasons for the NCAA, if they always touting the student athlete rather than the athlete student.
And I hear that, I read that, and I see that, and those comments are made on a regular basis here, especially lately, concerning student athletes. But you and I both understand that at the end of the day, as an athletic director once told you and I, football is the wheel that moves, that drives the engine.
Without a doubt. Football drives. Football, is a lead dog in all of this. I do not like where this is heading, possibly with mega conferences and 14-team leagues, 16-team leagues, or the down the line talk of only 4 mega conferences of 64 teams, possibly. It's probably going to happen. Doesn't mean I'm going to like it. I don't like the fact that, clearly we already know that there are haves and have-nots in life. There are haves and have-nots in athletics. But if you're only going to have 64 teams, which are really odd, even out of 64, probably only 20 in a given year will have a legitimate chance at the mythical national championship. So what does it say for the other 200, 300, 250 schools who don't even have a chance don't even have a chance to compete for the title now, really, because they're not a part of the BCS. But I know it's money driven, doesn't mean I like it.
Well, fans, there you have it. That's what's going on. And just once again, an outside source, namely network that wants to, we won't say monopolize, but want to be the big 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is right now ESPN. Hopefully this situation gets resolved before the season starts, because my gut feeling tells me all is done. It's just a matter of everybody sitting down at the table and voting, and then putting a schedule together. So,
ESPN is one of the main reasons for this. First and foremost, because of the deal they set and arranged with the University of Texas. The $300 million deal over, I think, 20 years for the Longhorns was one of the main factors in this. But what are your thoughts on
access?
I don't care about access because I'm not going to watch the damn show anyway. I don't care about any of that stuff. But just the people, the Aggies doing this, or the negativity that the Aggies are receiving because people are calling ego-driven. People at ESPN, ironically enough, are calling it ego-driven. So the decision behind the Aggies wanting to get to the SEC because they want to get out of the shadow of the Longhorns and all that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, ESPN, tough luck, because you only have control over, if I'm reading this correctly, one school in the conference, because that's who you have a contract with. Am I wrong?
Depending on the conference.
But right now, the way the Big 12's contract is set up for all the schools to revenue share, I think it's a great move for A&M, because not only will it'll be shared just with football, it'll be shared down the line with all of the ancillary type situations, sort of like what the Big Ten has now with that network, which I thought the commissioner of the Big 12 should have done when all of this came up the first time.
But how much? I mean, because I don't know.
I don't know the figures on as far as the size of the contract, but I do know that it's a lot larger than what's being stated.
The Big Ten's payout per team is roughly right now $22 million, I believe, $22 million per member school. The new Big 12, well, the current Big 12 of 10 teams, I think it's $20 million per team. Everyone believes, and I believe, rightly so, that the new deal for the SEC, new TV deal for the SEC will pay out more than that. But it's how much more? I mean, the Aggies right now, as things stand, they stay in the Big 12, would earn $20 million along with A&M, along with Texas and Oklahoma. So how much more will they be getting if they go to SEC and they'll be splitting the pie? Cutting the pie up more than what it is right now in the Big 12.
Well, if I'm reading this correctly, it's because of their bowl affiliations in that particular conference. And from what I'm reading, the Big 12 used to have a pretty good deal set up as far as bowls concerned. But right now, the SEC does. Even that that team is going to a sixth place type bowl situation is getting over $1 million. And $1 million per school as far as revenue. So when you look at that, that will add on to your substance as your funding and your general scholarship fund, general athletic scholarship fund, for ancillaries down the road.